Hey everyone, this is Chauncey K Robinson, the Twisted Girl Next Door, and today we're slicing open and getting into the guts of the film Annihilation in 6 minutes, 66 seconds or less. Let's get creepy. Okay, so the first half of this video is going to be completely spoiler-ish free, sort of spoilers free. Sometimes I have to do a little spoiler to actually give you a review, but it's going to be somewhat spoiler free. But you should stick around towards the end of it if you want some spoilers, or if you've seen the film and want to know some of my ideas or thoughts about some of the things that actually happened and you're just into spoilers like that, because the second half of this is going to be total spoilers of some of the events that happened in the film itself. So make sure to stick around for that. Annihilation is a science horror film based off of the novel by the same name, and it's written and directed by Garland. The film deals with the fact that some type of, what it shows in the beginning, some type of meteor of some sort came from out of the space, cosmos, and it hits this lighthouse. And from there, some sort of weird rainbow-like force field has surrounded the immediate area, or some major part of the area surrounding the lighthouse. They've called it the Shimmer. And it has been expanding slowly for over a year, getting more and more further out, covering more ground. What's happened is the military and the government have been sending soldiers into the Shimmer, and they haven't been returning. They've sent team after team, and they haven't been returning, except one recently returned, and that happens to be Oscar Isaac's character, Kane, who also happens to be Lena's husband, played by Natalie Portman, who plays Lena. And he returns, but something's terribly wrong. Lena happens to be a biologist and former military personnel, and she decides, because she wants to figure out what's wrong with her husband and also what happens in the Shimmer and possibly stop it from expanding and taking over cities and towns and perhaps the whole world, she decides to go in with a small team of other scientists and military, who also happen to be all women, into the Shimmer to figure out what happens. And from there, stuff gets really super weird. With this particular film, not to give too much away, which I'll do more towards the end, it uses science, it uses the question of nature and biology and the earth to scare you, like literally just really scare you with what is possible when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to evolution, when it comes to the earth, when it comes to all of that. I feel like with this movie, I was having some sort of like existential crisis in watching it. It's one of those movies where it's not something that you go to have a good time necessarily. I know that's weird, because when you go watch a film, you want to have a good time. It's definitely not a movie where it's like, yeah, if you've had a bad day, don't watch this movie. It will just make you not happier. Okay, so some of the pros. The look of this film is really super, it's beautifully haunting. It's like, it's really hauntingly beautiful, whichever way those words should go. It's like just the landscape, even the dreary dead bodies. There's a certain beauty with the dead bodies. There's a certain beauty that happens when people die in this film. It's actually pretty in a weird way, and that also did something to me in watching it, and be like, oh, that was a cool way that she kind of got her face ripped off. Every character has a plot line in terms of their backstory. It's not just, oh, I'm just a really tough girl, or oh, hey, I'm just, a shrinking violet, and that's why. Like, each of them have their own stories. Each of them have a life before this film begins. A lot of times you're scared about something in horror films because of the fact that you feel like, oh, this could happen to me. This could possibly happen. And somehow, with science fiction, there's always this detachment of, well, we're not in, it's not the year 3000, and who cares if there's some tentacle monster in the year 3000? I mean, it's not the year 3000. Who knows if that'll actually happen? And what this film does, it plays into this situation of, this could actually happen, and what if it did, and what if there was nothing you could do about it, about some foreign entity from the cosmos coming down and somehow changing Earth in this very subtle, natural, but disruptive way. That also, the film is actually pretty diverse. It's not a lily white film in the sense of every character is white, which sometimes also happens in these sort of films, or there's like one token black person. There's like 2 to 3 black people. You get asked a question, I think we see it in the trailer, where someone's asked, well, was it an alien? Was it this? And the answer is, I don't know. And you really don't necessarily know. The film never completely tells you. It's kind of like, I don't know. You don't know. And that is what makes it even scarier. Yeah, I found myself having like an existential crisis while watching this film in moments where I was really uncomfortable. Like the question of aging. And Natalie Portman's character at one time says that, you know, aging just means there's actually a fault in our molecular biology. And I'm just like, what? You will not get a fuzzy feeling of happiness when watching this film. You will probably sit there terrified at some moments. And also when the film ends, you don't know if it's a good ending or if it's like, oh. It's very much like a, oh. If you are ready to dig deep into the cosmos, into the terrifying aspect of nature and the world and dying and stuff like that, then you should totally give this movie a stab. If you are someone who you don't like super intellectual or semi-intellectual plots, then I would still say give this movie a stab. There's some good jump scares, there's some really great visuals in this film, and there's really great acting. And if nothing else, even if after the credits roll you don't want to think deeper about it, I think you can definitely say you saw a quality or a good horror film. So that's about most of what I can talk about without completely spoiling what was actually inside when it came to Annihilation. If you want to know more, stick around because there's going to be some spoilers after this segment of the video is done. Also, be sure to subscribe down below and also comment and let me know what you think or what you think, what you're hoping to see in the film if you haven't seen it yet, and what you might have some more questions about without wanting to be spoiled completely. And if you do want to be spoiled completely, just hold on a second because we're going to get into some spoilers. One of the scariest moments in a movie that I have seen in a long time, probably one of the most scariest moments, was that damn beer. That beer that had the voice of one of the women that got killed. Like when it opened its mouth, it was actually the scream of the person, the character it killed before. That was ridiculously creepy and scary and terrifying because one, it kind of dealt with the idea of this predator evolving to, you know, get its prey. The visual itself was creepy, but what was really terrifying was the idea that this bear could evolve to take on the voice of the thing it had just previously killed in order to draw in the rest of them. And once again, if this is a movie that makes you get inside of your head, you realize how terrifying that is. My guess of what's inside, it's a play on words. Like I said earlier in the video, it deals with what's inside of us as humans and what's inside in terms of what was inside the shimmer itself. But more so, I think it dealt with what was inside us as humans, especially with the way it ended with Lena and Kane coming together at the end and their eyes glowing gold, letting you know that they had been changed on the inside, their cells, their biology. Well, one, that wasn't even Kane, right? That wasn't her husband. Her husband didn't come back. It was the entity that had taken on her husband's shape and form. And like Lena asked him, like, are you my husband? You're not Kane, are you? And he's like, I don't think so. And it's just so subtle. And so I think definitely it leaves it open to the idea that maybe they'd start having some alien babies or some different kind of species of babies. And I thought it was interesting that one of the things it says in the film, one of the things Lena's character says is, when she's asked, oh, was it an alien attack? And she's like, no, they weren't, you know, she said something like, no, they weren't attacking, they were changing something. And we all know how scary change can be too, just like the scariness of mystery, the scariness of, you know, not being able to fight something like a disease or something can be so terrifying. The other thing of change, something changing that's disruptive to everything you've ever known. Because when you think about it, that is what that thing was doing. It wasn't necessarily killing the characters, it was changing characters. It was changing their bodies. It was changing their environment. It was changing the environment. It was changing them. And that's maybe one of the scariest things of a monster, of this idea of there's no rhyme or reason. It just is. This film basically exemplified how friggin' scary evolution and nature can be, because these are things that can happen. If something was to come from the sky and suddenly change a part of our land and start to expand, and it's really just basically changing all of us on a molecular level, and there was just nothing we could really figure out, because hey, we haven't even figured out cancer yet. How are we going to figure out some alien cancer thing that's changing everybody? That's terrifying. It messed with me. It messed with me in terms of everything that could happen, and I'm still trying to marinate on everything that occurred in this film and what that means, because it's like, was the alien thing actually evil? Maybe. I mean, what's good and evil? You know, is cancer evil? I mean, it's bad to us because people die from it and people we love die from it, but in another sense of looking at it, it's just a growth that causes the cells to break down and change. My interpretation of this film that was semi-depressing, very thoughtful, very intellectual. I want to know what you think. So be sure, please, please, please comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you think I'm completely wrong, if I interpreted it wrong, if you don't think that was what they were talking about when it comes down to what's inside. Let me know down below. And also be sure to subscribe so you're the first one to know about when I post my videos about movie reviews and all things horror every Thursday weekly, plus bonus videos throughout the week. Thanks again, and let's get creepy together.